Wake and take, baby. We're awake. And take. We're awake. Oh, yes, I got to get my hair fixed here. I couldn't wait to do this. Bring the coffee in. Oh, coffee in. Talk a little Quentin Johnston with everybody. Did you think that the Podfather was going to do Wake and Take? Because I did actually fall asleep. I fell asleep last night. My wife wanted to watch the morning show on Apple with me, and I said, okay, right? And I was like, okay, there's a football game on. I really should be watching this football game. I really should. But she's like, please, can we watch the morning show? It's a good show. I was like, okay, we'll watch the morning show. Fine. Okay. Well, I'll do this for you, right? This is a football evening, and I'm watching the morning show, and I fell asleep. I don't know what happened. I'm sure it's a very good show. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pay attention. Love Reese Witherspoon though. She's cool, right? She's cool, right? But so I fell asleep. So I didn't know what happened. I didn't know who won the game. Chargers, Cowboys, didn't know, right? So this is perfect, right? And then we have Quentin Johnston, and I left my hairs. You know what? Why don't we just give bedhead? We could do bedhead today, right? So we got bedhead in the morning. So I wake up in the morning. I do not know what happened. Okay, I got my Belichick. It's my Belichick cut off hoodie here. This is in tribute to the most overrated coach in the history of the NFL. Okay, now I'm not going to get off track. I almost got off track right there. You saw me. I was almost off track. It was so close to being. I was so close to being off track, but I didn't get off track. I did not get off track. We're not going to talk about Belichick and how he should be starting Malik Cunningham and just all the young guys, and he should be fired, and they should move on as quick as possible and get the best draft pick. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, we're not. We need to talk about Quinton Johnston. Quinton Johnston is a mess. Quinton Johnston is a total and complete bust. And there were fantasy analysts, and they know who they are, who were comparing him to Jamar Chase, saying, I can't believe that you're fixating. Imagine fixating on his drops. Imagine focusing on elite player like Quentin Johnston. Imagine focusing on his drops. Imagine. Remember all those drops from Jamar Chase, right? Remember Jamar Chase? You can't talk about all the drops. This is Jamar Chase. Ah! So I wake up this morning, again, not knowing, assuming, right? I think I watched through at least a quarter and a half, right? I assumed at one point we get no Mike Williams. Mike Williams out, right? Mike Williams not playing. Mike Williams torn ACL, won't play for the rest of the year. And then they have a bye week. So you're like, okay, here we go. We get the bye week, right? We got a football here. Right, we got a football, we got a bye week. All right, Quentin Johnston, we're going to get this figured out, okay? We're going to get you running the right routes. Oh, no. We're going to get you running the right routes. We're going to get you on the right page, same page as Justin Herbert. We're going to get you right, buddy. You're a first-round pick. Right? So and you had the greatest ratio of yards per team pass attempt divided by yards after the catch per team pass attempt in the history of the NCAA or something. There was something about yards after the catch per team pass attempt with air yards. Somehow there was a metric that someone created that showed that Quentin Johnston was the best receiver in the history of college football. And that's what so there are pseudo analytics analysts, right? Pseudo data scientists on Twitter all over and these are the ones that are coming out. Hey, don't you know about these metrics, these yards after the catch per team pass attempt, where Quinton Johnston was the best ever? You didn't know? There was a whole Reddit thread about Quinton Johnston and how he's the best. And Fusuvu liked him. Fusuvu! Ah! Oh, Fusu! Oh, God, Fusu! But, just when you think that Fusu has been as wrong as you could ever be, he's wronger, right? And then you're like, okay, this is the year that Fusuvu balls, gets real, balls himself up, hides under the desk, and is never seen from again. Just slinks away, just crawls away, just getting as low to the ground as possible. And just, and I could see him just, crawling through, mud, right? And just to make sure no one can see him. Like, not even like infrared, right? He's so afraid of being detected because he's been so wrong, and that he's gone. You'd never see him again. Just, he's a ghost. You think that this is the year for Fusu, that this is it. Right, he's had his stopwatch out. Right, he has his stopwatch. He has the. Do we have a stopwatch? I think I might have a stopwatch. Oh, do we have a stopwatch? It's somewhere. Oh, I've got it in here. Oh, not prepared. I wasn't prepared to talk about Fusu and his stopwatch. He's recording the tape of Quentin Johnston at TCU. Watching back the tape of the broadcast, and he's got the stopwatch. He's like, this guy runs faster than a 4.5. He's not actually slow. I was told 4.37, 4.38, maybe. At most, at his slowest, he's a 4.4 flat. Not a 4.5? Quinton Johnston? No, man, this guy, elite speed. Did you see him at TCU? Did you see him against the Big 12? Oh, my God. Right? I don't know. I saw him drop a bunch of passes in the Big 12. I saw him be invisible in a lot of games in the Big 12. And then we got the reports from this pro day. He dropped 3 beautiful deep balls in a row from Dugan. Do something, Quinton. Just do something out there. And he didn't. He did nothing. 2 targets, no yards. This feels so good. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I don't even know why. I've never done this before.
Hey, we've got 2 things going on here. This is a bust alert,
I've never had both noisemakers activated at the same time. And I've never been this right. This is a first-round pick that, again, the pseudo-metrics community absolutely loved Quinton Johnston. Just loved him. Couldn't, again, better than Jamar Chase. The greatest yards after the catch per team pass attempt per air yard ever, right? And I'm waiting. I've been waiting. I've been checking Twitter. Right? Where is the apology? Are they going to say they're sorry? Are they going to say, I'm sorry that I was insisting on drafting Quentin Johnston and explaining how you guys are so wrong and shaming the Podfather? Because I said bust before he ever took an NFL snap. Said this is what a bust looks like. And then I went to X, now Twitter, or X, and I laid out his 20 comps from the Player Profiler database. And it was Justin Hunter. And it was, Jalen Strong and Martavis Bryant and Dante Moncrief and Stephen Hill and it was just down the board. Tommy Streeter, right? And then, but then I said, oh, well, what about Tommy Streeter? And they said, well, Podfather, you don't understand. A lot of the guys you're listing. Now, again, I also listed Josh Doxson. I listed Jalen Reagor. Okay? They just happen to be TCU. I mean, just not a big deal. Like, my position was this guy is definitely going to bust, and there's no doubt about it, and that Zay Flowers is definitely going to hit, and there's no doubt about it. And I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't know how, if it would be possible to be more right. I've never been this right. It's why we have two different megaphones out at the same time.
I mean, how could you be more right than this? I mean, you can't be more right.
I mean, this is the best thing. Never in the history of my life has a guy busting so hard been just so fulfilling and filled me with just so much joy. Watching Quinton Johnston do nothing was just the best. It's just the best. It's unbelievable. And to see, oh my God, the counselor was telling you got to get Quentin Johnston. He's the best guy in the middle rounds. You got to get him. It's just frauds. Just frauds. If you go, this is the fraud test. You go back through all the analysts who had Quentin Johnston as a top 3 receiver in this class. Just say top 3. Not even number 1. Most people had Jackson Smith-Njigba, right? Then Jordan Addison. That was very common. And then really, this is where the rubber meets the road. Where do you have Zay Flowers and then maybe other receivers? No way. I mean, we like Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, all these other guys. Like, hey, these guys are better. Okay, not Mingo, right? Mingo, Quentin Johnston, right? But some of these other second-round receivers, particularly Reed, Michael Wilson, right? So many, right? So I'd not have Quentin Johnston in my top 5 receivers. Okay. But let's just put that aside. Let's say top 3 or top 2, right? Especially number 1. So the first thing you do is you find every analyst that had Quentin Johnston as their number 1 receiver in this class. That person is a fraud. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're looking at. They're just winging it. They have no idea. Okay. And then after that, then you can start to use that if they had the number 2 or number 3. But this is the great litmus test. The Quentin Johnston litmus test. This is it. Because it was all there. If you focus on the right details, and this is not just the metrics. Yes, I know all the metrics said this guy's going to bust. 20 deep of bust comps on his profile, right? On the data analysis tool and player profiler. Okay, goes 20 deep, right? So that's why I was so sure. Okay, but also I was open to the fact that maybe this guy has these like football skills that are not available in the numbers, in the metrics. So talk to Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch, who was at the pro day, and said, what are scouts saying about Quentin Johnston? What did you see at the pro day? And all Alex could do was shake his head. All Alex could do was say, he's not a guy. That's what Alex said to me. He said, he's not a guy. He's not a guy. He's not a guy for the league. He's not, he was, had the worst body language, was not making any plays, was dropping passes, demoralizing everybody around. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. It was like watching a kid, in a play, forget their lines, and you're in the crowd and you're just like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. This is just, I can't even bear to watch this. I'm embarrassed, and I'm not even the kid's parent. You feel so bad. The kid must be it's nauseating. The pro day was nauseating. So I said, okay, so all the numbers that we care about are pointing to bust. And then we check it against the humans and say, hey, is there some human analysis here that is not in the data we just need to double check our work. We have to double validate. Before I go out and I say, this player is a bust before he takes an NFL snap and he's drafted in the first round, you need to check your work. You need to double verify. I'm calling sources. I'm like, hey guys, are we sure? And everybody's like, yes. The people I trust, bust. Oh my God, this is so great. This is amazing. I can't believe it. You got to understand. I expected something. I expected to look up in the morning, hair disheveled, getting my coffee, looking at the scores, looking at the advanced stats, looking at the usage. Expecting to see, Everett with 5 catches and 30 yards for a touchdown, something. At least you're expecting, I was expecting 4 targets coming off of buys, 4 targets. He catches 2 passes, 25 yards, maybe a random touchdown somehow, bailout touchdown that somehow people can get excited about, feel, you got a touchdown. But to just nothing. Justin Herbert had more receiving yards than Quentin Johnston. Think about that for a second. And the draft capital mob, good luck. Good luck, draft capital mob. Good luck. We're going to talk to Kyle Dvorak this week on the Mind of Mansion show, and we're talking about draft capital because I can't remember a year where draft capital meant less. Think about the wide receivers that are exceeding expectations. Puka Nacua, Michael Wilson, Tank Dell. These were not players drafted in the first 60 picks. This is amazing. Amazing. Okay? Amazing. Because every year, it's a perpetual lament. You've listened to the show, you listen to my show, my podcast, whatever it is, for the last, been on almost a decade. And I'm feeling that decade, by the way. It's been the thing I've talked about over and over and over, more than anything else, is how overrated draft capital is. Puka Nacua was the 43rd pick in the 5th round. And he's going to break records for rookie receiving production. And he also he rolls up his sleeves. That's how you know he's good, right? He cuts off his sleeves of his jersey. That's how you know he's good. Right? But think about it. Let's look at the first round. Let's look at the first round of the NFL draft. Here we go. Here's the first round of the NFL draft. You ready? Look at this. Look at this. Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. See, these are the genius. You people think that NFL front offices have all this access to data that we don't have. You're wrong. Okay? They actually pay attention to a lot more data that isn't predictive at all. It's just narrative-driven, even rumor-driven. Oh, I heard about a play this kid made, and it was amazing. Right? That's what gets these guys drafted. You don't understand just how backwards so many of these teams Still are. And I know they're investing in the analytics departments. I know they are, right? The Eagles are leading the way. They're doing analytics on nutrition. They're doing analytics on strength and conditioning, on hydration, everything. And the Eagles are going to be in the Super Bowl every year for an extended period of time. And we'll see. We'll see how long it takes for the NFL to fully catch up. They are investing. You see job openings. You see people getting hired by NFL teams for the analytics department. And scouting analytics is becoming more and more of a thing, right? So, yet there's been no improvement. None. I mean, look at this. Look at how can you draft Bryce Young, 5'9", system quarterback from Alabama. How can you draft that guy over C.J. Stroud? That makes no sense. How can you draft him over Anthony Richardson? It's ridiculous. Because he scored well in this S2 test? Who said the S2 test is predictive? Nobody! It hasn't been proven to be predictive. It's brand new. So until you means test something as predictive, how can you use it as the number one criteria for making a decision? It makes no sense to give up all these picks and DJ Moore. For Christ. What are you doing? Just remember this. This is the Atlanta Falcons drafted a freaking running back. Right? Who I actually think is now it's time to trade for Bijan Robinson in seasonal leagues. I think he's reached a low point. He's going to be one of the most productive. He already is, but he's going to be top 5 fantasy running back this year, if not top 3. And with Christian McCaffrey injured, could be the number 1 overall fantasy running back. That's still in Bijan Robinson's range of outcomes. I love him for fantasy, but drafting him at pick 8 is so backwards, so absurd. Jahmyr Gibbs, where are you? Look at Jahmyr Gibbs. Look at some of these picks. The Miami Dolphins forfeited their pick. Because the top equity holder was bribing coaches, allegedly, to lose games on purpose. Look at the Chargers drafting Quentin Johnston, a pick before Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. I'm not saying you had to take Zay Flowers. I'm not saying you had to know Zay Flowers, even though he had the best dominator rating. I'm not saying you had to draft Zay Flowers, but at least you got to go Jordan Addison there. Jordan Addison's playing in your city. He's down the street. I'm sure you've seen him and talked to him more than any other wide receiver on the board. How did you not just draft Jordan Addison as a replacement, the long-term replacement for Keenan Allen? It makes no sense. Look at Dalton Kincaid. How do you draft Dalton Kincaid over Anton Harrison, Nolan Smith? It makes no sense. Look at the second round. Look who they drafted Dalton Kincaid over. They drafted Dalton Kincaid over, Steve Avila. Right? I'm not saying you had to go and know that Laporta was going to be this much better than Kincaid. Right? You shouldn't be drafting a tight end in this spot anyway. Should have been drafting a Steve Avila. Should have been drafted a Nolan Smith. A Joey Porter. Like that's the right move. Right? A super solid player that you know is going to be a contributor. Not like, we don't know if he's athletic. We think he is. He was injured throughout the process. We're going to take him in the first round. Look at the tight end that went in the first round versus what we've seen from Laporta, what we're now seeing from Michael Mayer, the leading receiver for the Raiders last week, and Luke Musgrave, who could be, 5 years from now, the best of all of them. He certainly has the best size-adjusted athleticism. Look where Jonathan Mingo went. Ahead of Jaden Reed. Ahead of Rashee Rice. Ahead of Marvin Mims. What are you doing? In a fantasy league, you need to be aggressively trying to acquire Rashee Rice. Aggressively. We keep going. There's Nathaniel Dell. We'll keep going. Now, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Look at these two picks. Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. From where? Tennessee. One of these pop gun offenses, right? One of these air raid, Texas Tech style offenses. Jalen Hyatt is going to have every opportunity this week against Washington. And if he face plants this week against Washington with very little target competition in that wide receiver room, then we could just mark him as a bust and move on. The NFL drafted these two guys over Josh Downs, but in particular, we have to keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling to the guy that they all should have been drafted and circled, Michael Wilson, right here. It's ridiculous. And then go back a year. We can go back a year. Look at this. Drake London, great pick. Garrett Wilson, great pick. Chris Olave, great pick. Great job. But guess what? The guy that was actually the highest rated recruit, and all he did was produce early in his career at Georgia, was George Pickens. Look who got drafted before George Pickens. Jamison Williams, drafted before George Pickens. Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks. Let's see who else. Let's just see who else went before George Pickens. George Pickens is a laser light show, and he was at Georgia as a true freshman. This was not a secret that he was the next A.J. Green. Wan'Dale Robinson, John Mechie. I like John Mechie. I love the story, but where he was drafted didn't make any sense. Tyquan Thornton, where is he? Tyquan Thornton went, okay, Bill Belichick, why are you hopefully going to get fired before the season and just shame walked out of the building? You did this, Bill. You took Tyquan Thornton over George Pickens. That is indefensible. So enough with the draft capital. Enough. When you see these Dalton Kincaids and these Jahmyr Gibbs steamed up, I mean, I thought where Jahmyr Gibbs was going, third round, that I was crazy. I was crazy. I said, I don't understand. I talked to Billy in the Dominator show about this over and over again. Talked to Theo about this. Why? What is the thesis behind Jahmyr Gibbs over David Montgomery? David Montgomery's going 5th, 6th round. Look at all these great 0 RB choices we have. Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, David Montgomery. I mean, the list goes on and on. DeAndre Swift. If you're just profile agnostic and you're just going off ADP, you're just saying, hey, I'm going to draft running backs in this zone. Everyone from Travis Etienne all the way through to James Conner, I'm going to just be drafting all of them. Some of them are not going to hit. Clearly, in that zone, those running backs have projection fragility. But damn, a lot of the dead zone backs were actually the alive zone, right? They were very much alive. I mean, this was the greatest year for the dead zone in the history. And that was the whole reason to go 0 RB. It's like, why wouldn't you go 0 RB? The dead zone's awesome. And fantasy gamers have lost their minds. Going Jahmyr Gibbs 3 rounds, 4 rounds ahead of David Montgomery. That makes no sense. Guy hasn't taken an NFL snap yet, and he's not going to be the primary back. What are we doing? What is this? Oh, but Christian McCaffrey. Okay. What? Right? Comping Jahmyr Gibbs to Christian McCaffrey is the equivalent. It is. It is the 1-for-1 equivalent of comparing Quentin Johnston to Jamar Chase. They're not comparable. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. But this is it. I mean, once and for all, forever, we have proven. I mean, it's every year, but it's every year by degrees. This year, though, we won't get a better proof point year for how draft capital and the overrating of draft capital, which is the overrating of NFL front offices and their ability to diagnose talent, to identify and evaluate the best players from the college ranks who will then make the leap to the NFL ranks. The NFL sucks at projecting college players to the NFL. The front office, they stink at it. And that is the greatest source of leverage that we as fantasy gamers have. So whenever someone leads off with the draft capital, leads off with this team, the Chargers loved Quentin Johnston, and he has Justin Herbert. Okay, so Justin Herbert played the whole game. He played the whole game. And I was told that because of Justin Herbert, Quinton Johnston, he's going to hit no matter what anyway. Even if he's not efficient, because it's Justin Herbert, he'll elevate him. 2 targets, 0 yards. Okay? Because the Chargers front office liked him, then there's a lot of information we don't have, right? That player profiler's not available there. Podfather's unaware of all these things. But Fusu has it because he has a stopwatch watching the broadcast. But I'm unaware, right? Nonsense. We know more than them. You have to understand this. Once you have the confidence to know and understand that your talent evaluation, if you're focusing on the right details and you're truly analytics based, your evaluations are likely to be better than these NFL teams that have all these biases swirling around them that we're unaware of, that are infecting how they draft. I can't explain how Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyquan Thornton get drafted ahead of George Pickens. What I know is I was in Las Vegas broadcasting it live when it happened, and I lost my fucking mind. I didn't understand it. And it happens all the time. All the time. Right? That's why I could say, set your watch by it. Half of these wide receivers in this first round are going to bust. Right? I always say that. And you're like, no. And no one, not a single analyst, would put their name on a receiver in the first round this year that they thought would bust. No one would put their name on it. And I'm like, well, it's easy. I'm going to say Quinton Johnston, and he's definitely a bust. Can you do that? Who do you like the least? Well, you got 4 guys. Pick one. They all are not going to hit. What are you so afraid of? Right? It's like, it's a crisis of confidence that so many fantasy analysts have and fantasy players have. If you trust yourself and your ability to evaluate that David Montgomery is actually going to outscore Jahmyr Gibbs this year. Yes, I know that the other fantasy gamers believe you're wildly wrong about that, but it's just kind of obvious. And sometimes instead of doubting yourself, how could the NFL not love Michael Wilson? How could he go in the late 3rd round where Quentin Johnston goes in the 1st round? I don't understand this. He's very much like Quinton Johnston. He has the same size, right? He's going to play the same role in the NFL, but he's just more athletic and better in every way. Why? Am I missing something? What you need to walk away from this show is knowing you're not missing anything. And it's the best way to exploit value in fantasy football drafts is to factor it, just factor in draft capital 50% of what the public is factoring in, and you'll be successful.